This is day 1 of lesson 4.3, which is going to be solving equations using addition and subtraction. Pause this, try these warm-up problems. This number 4, or 3 and number 4 got kind of smushed together there. We'll go through those and then we'll start with the lesson. Number 1 says simplify, so we have to distribute this 9 to both terms. And this can be written as 9 times r plus 9 times 7. 9 times r is 9r, plus 9 times 7 is 63. These are not like terms. One has a variable and one does not, which means that those can't be combined, so there's our answer. The next one, number 2, we know we have to distribute before we can do anything else, so we're going to distribute this 3 to both terms, and we're left with 6 plus 3 times n plus 3 times 4. So distributing that 3 to both the n and the 4. I'm going to simplify here. I have 6 plus 3 times n is 3n, plus 3 times 4 is 12. Now that I've distributed, I want to combine any like terms. So here I can rewrite this as 3n plus, and then I can combine 6 plus 12. 6 plus 12 is 18. So 3n plus 18. The next problem, number 3, is negative 6 minus 8. We're working with negatives and there's subtraction, so I'm going to add up. And now they have the same sign, so I'm going to add these numbers together and keep the sign. 6 plus 8 is 14. Keep the negative sign. So my answer there is negative 14. Then we have 5 plus negative 8. They have different signs, so I'm going to subtract. I'm going to subtract their absolute values. 8 minus 5 is 3. And then I have to keep the sign of the larger absolute value. Well, that's the negative 8, so I know that my answer is negative 3. Here's some vocab for lesson 4.3. So an equation is different from an expression because it has an equal sign. So we're going to be working with equations, things that have an equal sign. A solution is a value for the variable that makes an equation true. So your solution is the same thing as your answer. Inverse operations are two operations that undo each other. So addition and subtraction, multiplication and division, those are inverse operations. And then equivalent expressions have the same solution. So x plus 3 equals 4 and x equals 1. Well, they're the same thing, right? Because 1 plus 3 equals 4. So they are equivalent equations. The addition property of equality says that we can add the same number to both sides of an equation to make the statement or to make the equation true. So in your notes, you're going to want to write down this example. X minus 5 equals 10. First thing that I always want to do whenever I have subtraction is add up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change that subtraction to plus negative 5. My goal here is to get x by itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the inverse of adding negative 5 and I'm going to do that to both sides. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I want you to draw a line down your equal sign just to remember that whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And then I'm going to do the opposite here of minus 5, which is adding 5. So I'm going to add the opposite. I'm going to add the opposite of negative 5 is positive 5. So I'm adding 5 to both sides. If you don't want to do the double plus sign, that's fine too. It just is a way to help keep organized, always remembering to add the opposite. So minus 5 and plus 5 cancel, which means this is just x on this side, and then 10 plus 5 is 15. To check my answer, I'm going to plug in 15 for x and see if we get the same thing. So this was 15 minus 5, which is 10, and that's what we were going for. So yep, our answer of 15 is correct. The opposite of the addition property is the subtraction property. So I want you to write this in your notes. X plus 3 equals 5. Again, we're going to draw a line down the equal sign. And the opposite of addition is subtraction. But to help keep things organized when we're working with negative numbers in 7th grade, we're going to add the opposite. So I'm going to add the opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. So I'm adding negative 3 to both sides. And this is the same thing as subtracting. It's just a very good habit to get into so that when we're working with negatives, it makes your life a lot easier. Positive 3 and negative 3 cancel, so I'm just left with x equals, and then I have 5 take away 3, which is 2. I always want to check my answer, so I plug in 2 for x, 2 plus 3, well, hey, guess what? That equals 5, which is what we were going for, so I know that my answer is 2. So to practice, write this one down in your notes. X minus 8 equals 19. There's subtraction, so I'm going to add up. Draw my line down my equal sign. Again, I'm going to add the opposite to both sides. So I'm going to add the opposite of negative 8 is positive 8. Remember, I'm getting x by itself. So I'm adding positive 8 to both sides, which is the same as adding. This leaves me with x equals 19 plus 8 is 27. Then when I check my answer, 27 minus 8, well, hey, guess what? That equals 19, which is what we were going for. So I know my answer is 27. The next one I want you to write down in your notes is c plus 8 equals 26. Again, draw a line down the equal sign. I'm trying to get c by itself, so I'm going to add the opposite of positive 8 to both sides, which is negative 8. I'm adding negative 8 to both sides, which I know is confusing, but the more we practice, the easier this will get. Always add negative. It's the same as subtracting, but it makes our life easier. Positive 8 and negative 8 cancel, so we're left with c equals, and then 26 take away 8 leaves us with 18. Now if I check my answer, I'm going to plug in 18 for c. 18 plus 8, well, hey, guess what? That equals 26, so yep, our answer works. Okay, 2 more problems. Write this one down. 27 and 2/10 equals y plus 13 and 56/100. Again, I'm going to draw my line down the equal sign. I'm trying to get y by itself. So I'm going to add the opposite of positive 13 and 56/100 to both sides, which is negative 13 and 56/100. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. I'm left with y equals, and then I'm going to take 27 and 2/10, subtract 13 and 56/100. I'm going to add a 0 in here for place value, and then I'm just going to bring that decimal down and subtract. So I got to borrow. And I get 13 and 64/100. Then if I check my answer, I'm going to plug that in for y. So 13 and 64/100 plus 13 and 56/100. I get 27 and 20/100, which is the same as 27 and 2/10. So yep, my answer is correct. And lastly, we have negative 26 equals p minus 61. Again, I'm going to add up wherever I can, draw a line down my equal sign, and then I'm going to add the opposite to both sides. So I want to get p by itself, so I'm going to add the opposite of negative 61 to both sides. So I'm going to add positive 61 to both sides. Now I'm left with p equals, and then negative 26 plus 61. These have different signs, so I'm going to subtract. 61 minus 26. I'm going to borrow here. And I get 35, and then I keep the sign of the larger absolute value. Well, 61 has a larger absolute value and it's positive, so my answer is going to be positive 35. And then to check your answer, you just plug in 35 for p. So 35 minus 61. Add up here. And then I'm going to take 61 minus 35, because I subtract their absolute values. And I get 26. And it'd be negative, because negative 61 has a larger absolute value. So yes, my answer of 35 works. So again, just to summarize, you're always going to do the opposite thing to both sides. So if it's a positive, you're going to add the negative to both sides to cancel that out.